Hello, and thank you so much for joining us. It's another edition of the Wildcat Walkthrough. I am Cedric Bailey, announcer for the Dunbar Wildcats, and it's now time to check in with Coach Lawson. Hey, Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine this morning, Cedric. How you doing?
Doing great. Well, first of all, congratulations on the win against Eastern Hills, 14-0. I'll take a shutout any day.
Oh yeah. It makes the defense play real well, so that makes a big difference, man. It gives us a little momentum heading into this game.
Well, let's talk about it. First of all, people had to understand the conditions for this game was pretty rough because the winds was just kicking to the north. It looked like it was going about probably 30 miles an hour in that field.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was a windy day. It was windy day. One thing about it, we was able to get there pretty early by being on a Saturday. So we was able to get there pretty early and kind of check the wind and adjust to it and things of that nature. So we knew once we had that wind at our back, if we was going to throw the ball, we had to definitely do it at that time. So,
yes,
but the guys did, they did good with adjustments and stuff like that.
Yeah. So let's talk about it because you did have the wind at your back. You were facing the north, and somehow Odom found Poe and was able to get the only score in the first half. I mean, it was like, I don't know how to describe it, but it was the perfect pass in those conditions, and he caught it.
Yeah. It just showed. That's just some of the things that we just got to get more consistent with is throwing the ball, and because we have a quarterback that can throw the ball. We just got to get him to the point to where he's more sure of himself. And once we get to that, man, we'll be able to really open up our offense and do real well.
Well, I got to talk about your defense because they made a crucial stand right before halftime. Here comes Eastern Hills. They were driving and going right down the field, and they had got their I think it was like about a 7 or 8 minute drive, and I was just saying during the game that the Wildcats were going to have to make a stand or come up with a big play, and there were a couple of penalties that came up and got them down to the 20-yard line. But can you talk about how your defense responded in that situation?
They responded real well, and that's one thing that we have talked with them about. The coaches talked to them about. It's just like game changing situation, how the momentum kind of shifts during the game. So we had to make sure that when they was driving, we knew we was going to have to make a stand, or they was going to make it a different type of a game. So we didn't want them to definitely not go in the halftime feeling too good about themselves, where they could have scored and then knowing that they're getting the ball back, that momentum would have really shifted. So that we just really just let our defense know this is where you got to make that stand, and special team was able to come out, and defense was able to go out and block that field goal. Yeah, and I kind of changed the tide on that. So that's just kind of things that we're talking about when you're having game situations on little small things, how it changes the momentum.
Yeah, I think that quarterback's name was Durst, and Keyshawn Mills probably in the second series got injured. And what happened to him? Did he tweak something?
Yeah, it just kind of leg just gave out on him. It's one of those freaks accident where he just got word on that yesterday that he had tore his ACL and meniscus stuff. So he's out for the year. But it's just a freak accident that happens. Wasn't nobody hit him or anything like that. So it was just a freak accident. So hopefully he can get in there and get his surgery and get his rehab going and be ready to go next year.
Who was his replacement, by the way, that came in?
We had a kid, Damian Stanford, which was at the linebacker, but we kind of put Damian down there. He's a sophomore kid, which is going to be he's going to be a very good kid for us as well. The kids at linebacker, he's 5'11", 240, so we moved him down to defensive end. He did a great job on that, and then we brought in Bryson Woodard, the quarterback. We moved him in at the backer, so he stepped right on in, and he's a smart kid, so he always know what he's supposed to do and what everybody else is supposed to do. So he stepped right in and did a good job at the linebacker spot.
Yeah, that's good. Glad to hear that. And then also, he steps in. He's the holder for your extra point attempts or so. So he's doing a pretty good job, and that's what it takes is the team all saying, I'm ready. Coach, where can I fit in at?
Exactly. And he comes in with that type of attitude, type of mentality, and he's a kid that we know once he goes out on the field, we can implement a lot of stuff because he's gonna make correction with the kid, letting the kids know where they have to line up. So he's gonna take that leadership role as soon as he walks out on the field. So you can't ask for anything more when you have a kid like him that steps out on the field.
Well, speaking of kids stepping out in the field, I could just tell the difference because when it was in the second half, and here's your team kicking the ball off the Eastern Hills, and you're kicking against the wind, so it wasn't going to go deep, but it went to one of the guys who tried to make a fair catch, and he wasn't able to come down with it. And there comes your defense, special teams, coming up with the onside. I mean, the kick.
Yeah, and that was one thing about it when we was kicking. We talked about that. Me and the kicker talked about that going into the game where when he was kicking with the wind, against the wind, if he just get it up high, that ball was gonna kind of start coming back on him. And you really had to have some kids that are pretty good, really good at catching balls like that. So that was just an opportunity. It's happened to me a few times. I still remember we went out to Boswell on a windy night, and I mean he had a good kicker that kicked that ball up so high, and I mean that ball went back and they recovered it. So it was kind of deja vu when we was able to accomplish that, and that just come with experience. And we were talking with the kicker on what we wanted and how it was going to look, and he was able to get it done and got it up in the wind where it started coming back. We was able to recover it.
You scored your second touchdown on the second touchdown on the ground. I think it was Murray Moore who made the run because he can run on that left side of that line.
It was Brazil. It was Brazil.
Yeah.
It was Brazil. They got that score, but we didn't run Murray as much. I don't know why. It just kind of happened like that because I think he ended up with like 7 carries for like 70 yards or 75 yards, something like that. So we didn't run him a lot, but Brazil stepped in. He had over 100 yards rushing. So he stepped in and did a good job. And but the running back's been doing a great job. Both of them is over 800 yards rushing for the year. So, they putting up some good numbers. So we just got to keep it rolling.
All right, you're hanging out with us, the Wildcat walkthrough, our matchup this Friday, Kennedale versus Dunbar. And Coach has played them several times over the years. But before I go ahead and go in a little bit further now, I got to come back and talk about number one. Holloman, is that his name?
Yeah, Holman.
Jared Holman. Let's talk about his performance because in the second half he came alive.
Oh yeah. He made a couple of plays on the defense, which kind of stopped him in the red zone. He came up with 2 interceptions right there. So he did a great job at that. He's a kid that knows how to hawk and go get the ball. We just got to talk with it. It's just some little minor adjustments that we do have to make on the coverages and stuff like that. And he understands that. But once the ball goes in the air, he's going after it. So he did do a great job in that regard and getting some picks and things like that. And we talked about some little things that, to the average person that's just watching the game, they'll look at it and be like, oh, it was a great play. He did a great job and things like that. But it's just some little things we need to come work on that, because I know a coach from opposing team look at that and be like, they can really, achieve some things on it, some things like that. So, but he did do a great job, and because we did run a lot of man with them, and Eastern Hills has some big receivers, has some good receivers, so he was able to hold his own against them. So he did a great job.
Yeah, and I noticed there was on a drive that they were going at one time, and he had got whistled for being able to make contact after the whistle had blown, and one of his teammates came up to him and kind of like say, "Hey man, we can't do that." So I want to say kudos to your staff and your players for recognizing when a teammate makes a mistake, and he responded, said, "Okay, I got it. So let me make up for what I did."
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. And again, that's just something that we always talk with the kids about. But even if it is one of their teammates come to them and make a correction with them, and you know how it is dealing with kids. They don't want to hear it from somebody like that at times. But a lot of times, I just ask them how would they react if I was saying it, and it would be totally different. I say, well, hey, what's right is right. Just do what's right and keep it moving. So they're really going in that aspect of it. So they all doing a great job, because I tell them they have to police themselves, not only on the field, but when they're even in the school building or when they're out in public and things like that. Because I always tell them they never know who's watching and stuff like that. They'll go to the mall and I get an email from a store manager or something. Just send me an email, say, hey man, your kids act real well. I remember last year I got an email from a store owner in what is it out there in Carrollton? They got
Grapevine,
the Dragons.
uh-huh. South Lake Carroll.
South Lake Carroll. I got and he wrote me, and he sent me an email. He was on a plane going somewhere, and he was a store owner. Some of the kids that came in, and a couple of them had on a Dunbar football shirt. And he just kind of spoke really highly of them on how they carried themselves, how they acted, and how they responded to him when he was talking with them and stuff like that. So, and I just kind of read it to the kids and just let them know, man, being appreciative of them and just understand, opportunities come in times like that.
Yeah.
So just to carry yourself in a very mindful and respectful manner, and things that come in your favor.
Yes. Well, I want to share this with you before we talk about the Kennedale game. I've been selected by Netflix to review the episode. It's a 6-piece documentary on Colin Kaepernick. It's called Colin in Black and White. And I will say this, there's a scene in there where Colin is with, he's adopted by a white family. And the first thing they're looking at him like, he's your son? How's this? And they said, well, we adopted him. But everywhere he went, when he went to the hotel, if he went swimming, even when he played baseball, he always had somebody say something to him, and he had to be double watched. And still today in 2021, we have to be judged just because of the color of our skin.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and I think we're doing a big crime. I shouldn't say crime, but a disservice to a lot of our kids if we don't explain that to them going out into the real world. We were taught, hey, you had to be twice as good, 3 times as good as the next person. And now we've kind of gotten away from that where, a lot of the kids, they talk about, they feel like they got the right. We never felt like we had the right. We always knew we had to be twice as good, 3 times as good, because that's what the parents, that's what your neighbors, your aunties, and all of that instilled in you. So if it was even, you already knew, I'm not going to get denied on that. So I had to always be able to outwork someone because, we was brought up where that's one thing that you can control is to be able to outwork someone. So, but that's good. I'm gonna definitely have to take a look at that and kind of put that out to some of my parents and actually show that to their kids. But my parents are really, really good about that because a lot of times I talk with them, and especially when a kid is having some issues or dealing with some things out in society, you try to get them something like that where they can kind of look at it. They'll look at it on their phones and stuff like that. And a lot of times I just tell them, hey, man, come back and tell me how the movie go. Knowing that I've watched it, I just want to see kind of what they pull from it and kind of see now how can you, put that towards your life and how can it help you in your life? Because a lot of times you have to do things like that.
Coach, you lived it. You went to Utah. Where was Utah? Provo? What city is that in?
Oh, no, I was in Salt Lake City, man. And it was crazy because I still remember walking in the store. A lot of my guys laughed about it. I remember walking in the store and I didn't know what a skinhead was.
Mm-hmm.
And, he met me at the store and I'm speaking to him. Hey, how you doing? Boom, boom, boom. I go in the store and I come back out. It's about 4 or 5 of them. I'm speaking to him. And, they kind of looking at me puzzled, like, what is he doing? I didn't know. I didn't know. I had never been exposed to something like that. So I went on, and a little bit later, I had a roommate who was from Orem, Utah. He kind of sit down and he explained it to me. And I was like, oh, man, I'm sitting up there. I said, God, dog, I really put myself in a situation and didn't know it. But, it's something that you have to deal with. But I always say my upbringing, being able to go to a school like a Dunbar, having parents there that basically prepared me for whatever things that was in store when you went into situations like that, because that was a totally different environment. Religious was totally different. Hey, we Southern Baptists, whatever the case may be. You get up there and you start seeing a totally different type of religion and things like that. It was almost like being in another world, another country, because of the religion was just had such a stronghold on the community. I mean, from the radio to the television, everything was controlled by the LDS. So it was just a different experience, but it kind of made you sit back and kind of look at life and look at what's really going on around you and paying attention to what's going on around you, and make you cherish your own values a lot better as well.
Did you have to call your dad and tell him, say, Dad, this one went to?
Yeah, he laughed about it. He laughed about it, but again, it's kind of strange, and I say strange, but I guess that comes from prayer, having religious parents, because it's like they just turned me out to the wolves, but they were like, they were like, you prepare for it, when all fails, you can go to church,
Yeah.
it was a church there, Mount Calvary. The minister there was a professor at Utah, and he was actually from Mississippi. So he was born and raised in Mississippi, and he still have his church there today. And actually, he's the football chaplain now. So I could always kind of go to that church and kind of get that Southern home feeling. When you get homesick and things like that. A lot of times when you get homesick, it's because you're not around anything that's familiar. So I was able to go to that church and kind of have a Sunday meal that was more of a Southern style, just things like that to kind of settle you down, to prepare you for the week to come, to be prepared for the week to come the next week. So, little things like that, you cherish it. You didn't really understand it, but you cherished it. But now I look back on it, I'm like, man, that still played a big deal in having me to be able to stay there.
Yes. Now let's talk about Kennedale Wildcats. What is it going to take to beat these guys? Because we watched them, the quarterback, he's very active. They got a young man by the number 4 who runs like in the slot. They go to him, and then they got a little passing game. So what is it going to take for you guys to stop the Kennedale Wildcats?
One thing about me in the office that is very similar to that is just about responsibility. It's like we were going through drills yesterday. We kind of doing some walkthrough, and then we did a little light scrimmage, and like having an interior lineman chasing a running back that's running around the outside. Those are just little small things where in any other playing against any other team, you'll be like, okay, that defensive lineman, he's tough, he's active, he's trying to go make plays. Well, when you play somebody like Kennedale, you run out of there trying to go make plays. They done ran the ball back behind you now. Now you wonder why that fullback is running up the middle of the field. Nobody has touched him. So it's just a lot of mistake-free things. They're going to speed it up. They're going to speed up their offense, run to the line and get down, where they can kind of puzzle you or something like that. But like I tell the guys, man, just play. This is your responsibility. So I don't care what they do. Just do your responsibility, and we'll be able to make adjustments as the game go. Offensively, I just hope we can just be able to lean on them. And it's going to be a physical game. And I get to see how our kids matches up physically.
How many kids was on the team? Because last year, y'all played them both with 3-0. It was like the 3rd or 4th game of the season at Farrington, and it was they put it on you guys. Do you think there's some guys that are still on their team that remember that, right?
Oh yeah, we got some guys, yeah. And again, it's things that got some guys from JV that came up that did real well against them last year. We got some new guys in there as well. We just got to go out there and do it. Like I say, hey, but I can show them the film, and we watch the film, and you can see where things that the guys' assignment, just not following through on their assignment, trying to do other things. And when you see guys break, you can go back to that film. You can show, okay, what is your responsibility on this play? And you show it to him, man. Okay, he'll tell you, okay, what happened? And then you can go back to practice where you've showed him the exact same play. And again, that's just a lot of times there's some growing up going on in those film sessions, because we know what we taught you, and you can look here, we got it on film. It's just you doing your job. Doing your job, and that's what it's going to boil down to come Friday night.
All right, and of course you have 2 games left after this. You got homecoming. It'll be against Western Hills, and it'll be at home. So if you win this game, you're going to be in the driver's seat to win the district. Is that a possibility? Because I don't know what Benbrook has done. So
Benbrook plays them. Benbrook plays them the last game. They play Kennedale on the last game.
Right.
So Kennedale got us this week, and then they got Benbrook next week. So then it'll come down as a 3-way tie. We'll go with the point differential. So that's gonna be a big thing right there, the point differential. So we'll look at the points, and we'll go from there. So it's gonna be tight, because nobody has been blown out. So I think it's to get in there. We got to get this. We got to get this win, and this would be a big step. This would be a big step in it as well. So we get in there, get this win, and then it'll come down to points points scored and points scored against you, and then we'll compare them up with your 3 teams, and then they'll go with first, second, and third as well.
A win right now would guarantee you a spot in the playoffs. Right now, you're on the line, or is it because I didn't call it? I said the guy asked me from the newspaper. I didn't say that. Hey, we're not in right now. I just wanted to say, hey,
I hate to just say, hey, we're in, because I don't want the kids to feel that sign of a relief. We made it and things like that. So I'll tell you off there, but we're right there. One of the two, we're fine. We're right in there, because you have us, who has lost one. Western Hills has lost twice, and we still play them. And then you have Eastern Hills, which is behind them, who has lost 3. So, that pretty much will tell you. If we end up with a tie with Eastern Hills, we end up winning out, because we beat them head to head.
Yeah. All right, Coach. Well, listen, our time is up. Hey, this going down this Friday. We're going to be there. And to the Wildcat fans, we need everybody to be there to support us as we take on, of course, the Kennedale Wildcats. Coach, I want to say thank you so much. And, of course, looking forward to having a great time and celebrating a win. And just want to say kudos to those Dunbar Wildcats. Keep up the great work, Coach.
All right. Thank you, Cedric Bailey. Appreciate what you're doing for us as well.
No problem. We got more coming up, so keep it right here on the BGC Sports Network, too.